How's it going, people? Salmon Slapper here, and this is the 5th episode of Runescape lore. This is going to be 5.3, and today we're going to be covering Armadyl. So, let's get into it. Armadyl is the avian god of justice, law, and the sky. He is described by his emissary, Torpak, as the god of justice, noble yet humble, putting his people first. Armadyl is the patron god of the Aviantes, a near-extinct race of bird-like creatures to which he belonged to before ascending to godhood. Although beings of other races worship him as well, in addition, Armadyl is commonly associated with the range style of combat, as well as the skies. Additionally, the clan citadels. He is known as namesake of the the Staff of Armadyl, an elder artifact that he once wielded. The staff has been stolen from Armadyl's followers on 2 occasions, resulting in the defeat of Zaros and the defeat of Guthix, as well as the Majara Lucian. The design atop the Staff of Armadyl would come to be associated with Armadyl himself, and it became his symbol. When Armadyl found Gielinor, his Aviantes inhabited the skies, living in fortresses floating on rocks. These areas are thought to be what we now know as the clan citadels. Armadyl was one of the major participants in the Gielinorian God Wars. Though the God Wars destroyed most of the Aviantes, some of their warriors can still be found today within the God Wars dungeon, led by Armadyl's Aviante general, Kriara. Armadyl left Gielinor at the end of the God Wars to roam the cosmos, mourning his lost kin. As a consequence, he has had relatively little activity in Gielinor since the end of the God Wars, and he is not as well known as other gods. Nor does he have a substantial following. Recently though, with the death of Guthix and the coming of the 6th Age, Armadyl seems to have been preparing to return to Gielinor. He desires global safety and justice for his following. So what are the beliefs of Armadyl and his followers then? Well, we all, mortal and godlike, can share this world, but for us to work together, consensus and law are required. Officially, Armadyl is the god of justice, though he is often associated with law as well. Saradomin, the god of order, said in one of the god letters that he and Armadyl are noble brethren, implying that himself and Armadyl hold many of the same beliefs. However, Saradomin notes that he and Armadyl differ on minor points, and that Armadyl's interests lie elsewhere from his own. The core of this is that Armadyl will always strive for justice, whereas Saradomin will take any path available to him as long as it helps him to achieve order, be it considered ethically good or bad, as was evident in his involvement in the Naragi God Wars. According to Torpak, Armadyl believes that Gielinor can be a place in which gods and mortals coexist peacefully and cooperatively. This, however, is in contrast to the beliefs of the godless and the late Guthix. They believe that Gielinor must be entirely free of godly influence in order to protect the mortals that call Gielinor home. Armadyl wishes to act as a guardian for those under his wings, though he also believes that his followers can achieve strength if they work together. Torpak states that Armadyl opposes tyranny and chaos. So what about Armadyl himself then? Well, Armadyl is a bit of a pacifist, albeit one who is willing to do battle when he has no other choice, mind. This belief is codified in Armadyl's Book of Lore, which, it actually states, "Thou shalt avoid war, but if thou must fight, believe, and thou shalt strike true." Additionally, during the hunt for Guthix, Kriara expressed reluctance to engage in combat unless absolutely necessary, particularly against those who have not wronged him, an act that embodies the spirit of his god. This is one of the ways in which Armadyl and Saradomin differ. For Saradomin, for example, is willing to exercise violence in order to enforce his beliefs. So, what did Armadyl get up to then? Well, originally, Armadyl was actually just a mortal Aviancy. Much like many other gods, he ascended to godhood from his mortal form. We think he did this, possibly with the use of the Staff of Armadyl. It's not known whether Armadyl had already ascended prior to arriving on Gielinor, unfortunately. There's just not enough information about the history at the time. Regardless though, Armadyl and the Aviantes most likely came to Gielinor during the Second Age, a time during which many of the younger gods and their followers arrived. Little is known of Armadyl's activities in Gielinor following his arrival. A group of humans, though, did come to worship him at some point, possibly in the late 3rd or perhaps early 4th Age, and he appointed them the Guardians of Armadyl, entrusting them with the care of his staff in the Temple of Ikov. However, at the end of the Second Age, a Saradominist man by the name of Valdez came across this temple, which was, according to him at least, abandoned. Valdez took the Staff of Armadyl, intending to deliver it to Saradomin, but instead, through a series of unfortunate events, it managed to find its way into the hands of the Mahjarrah, Zamorak. Well, Zamorak wielding this Staff of Armadyl and tapping the power from the Stone of Jazz, he was actually able to overthrow his master, the god Zaros, and, in turn, ascended to godhood himself. The staff at this point was then returned to Armadyl's guardian's hands. While Saradomin took the stone for himself, Zamorak at the same time was banished by the other gods, but soon after returns and declares war on Saradomin and the others in an attempt to reclaim it. So moving on into the Third Age then, what did he get up to in the Gielinorian God Wars? Well, while Armadyl was one of the 4 major participants in the Gielinorian God Wars that soon followed Zamorak's ascension, honestly, very little is actually known of the extent of his participation. No records have yet been discovered to cite the involvement of Armadyl or his Aviantes in any of the battles of the God Wars. It is said, however, that he did frequently ally himself with Saradomin near the end of the God Wars. Armadyl worked together with fellow gods, Saradomin and Bandos, to forge the God Sword, a blade created to be so powerful as to put an end to the threat of Zamorak. A group of Aviantes were tasked to deliver this God Sword to Saradomin's army, but they were waylaid in the mountains to the north of the Troll country by the Zamorakian troops. The Aviantes retreated into a large temple, and, with reinforcements from the armies of Saradomin and Bandos, they battled Zamorakians. However, the alliance eventually fragmented, and then it shattered, and the forces of the 4 gods turned upon each other, each seeking to claim this fabled God Sword for themselves. Shortly afterward, Zamorak destroyed Farinthi with the use of the Stone of Jazz. Because of the mass destruction of the entirety of the Farinthi region, now known as the Wilderness, Guthix was awoken from his slumber from beneath Gielinor's surface, and abruptly ended the God Wars, banishing all major gods including Armadyl from Gielinor as punishment for the destruction the wars had wrought upon the world. However, if you move into the Fourth Age, the God Wars saw the virtual extinction of the Aviantes race, believing the entire race to have been completely annihilated. Armadyl, after Guthix being awoken, was set to wander in the cosmos alone, grieving for his lost kin and the loss of his staff. In his mourning, however, he visited many different planets, including a lifeless ball of dust, an aquatic world covered in ocean, a molten noxious planet, and all of this he actually kept a journal during his wanderings, writing descriptions of each world he came to, as well as records of his own thoughts. The final world he visited was a gas giant, one that supported airborne life in its upper atmosphere. Armadyl flew with these creatures and noted how they mimicked his movements in flight, much as the Aviantes had once done. This planet marked the final stop in his solitary pilgrimage, as he felt his old strength had suddenly returned. Armadyl set off for his home, to shelter the faithful beneath his wings once more. It's not known whether the home he refers to in the Book of Armadyl is Gielinor, or if it just happens to be another planet from which the Aviantes may have originated. Regardless though, with the death of Guthix at the hand of the Marjorie Sliske and the break-in of the Edicts of Guthix, Armadyl is currently making plans to return to Gielinor. The few surviving Aviantes such as Torpak the Emissary are likewise preparing for the god's return. So what followers did Armadyl have then? Just close this all up. Well, his main following were just the Aviantes. Before ascending to godhood, Armadyl was a member of the Avianti race. After his ascension, he remained with his people. No record exists of Aviantes denouncing or rebelling against Armadyl, suggesting that the entire race followed him faithfully. Armadyl cared greatly for the Aviantes, enough that when he thought them all destroyed in the God Wars, he wandered the universe for thousands of years grieving them. Though the surviving Aviantes are few, a handful of distinguished ones do remain alive, including Torpak, emissary of Armadyl, Kriara, as well as his bodyguards Wingman Scree, Flight Kalisa, and Flock Leader Grian. There are multiple classes of Aviantes, however currently only two are known, and there is the military Aviantes, such as Kriara and his bodyguards, and the otherwise unnamed class Torpak belongs to. Other followers though, he did have a few human followers that did actually worship him, most notable of which were the Guardians of Armadyl. Known among his organisation is Ikov, a high-ranking Armadyl follower who constructed the temple that would serve as the Guardians' headquarters, and it would house the staff of Armadyl. In the 5th Age, Idria served as the leader of the Guardians, playing roles in events such as Crux Eccles' resistance against Lucian, and the 18th ritual of rejuvenation, the latter of which sees her death at the hands of the Dragonkin. Larissa, a woman living in the lighthouse, also worshipped Armadyl. Additionally, a handful of warband tribes operating in the wilderness also worship Armadyl and fight under his name. So that is pretty much it. There's not a massive amount known of Armadyl's activities in the 2nd or the 3rd Age. However, his main area, of where he ruled at least, seemed to be roughly the Ardone region, although it is known that himself and his followers did tend to reside within the skies. So he has no concrete grounding on floor level. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed that. That was a nice bit of information covering Armadyl. And if I get some more information, I'll be sure to let you all know. But with that said, thanks for watching, and I will catch you all later. Have a good one.